It's a modern, heavy, alternative melodic rock.
Angst-ridden, tense overtones. Huh?
Definitely.
In my opinion, Three Days Grace have always been the underdogs when it comes to hard rock. Now, what I mean by that is they weren't flashy or theatrical like My Chemical Romance or Panic at the Disco to fit into emo. They didn't cross over into hip-hop like Linkin Park or Korn to be considered as new metal. But honestly, Three Days Grace didn't need fancy costumes or genre-bending experiments. From day one, they knew what they wanted to write. That included heavier guitars, primal rage, and not afraid to talk about the darker stuff in life. They became a catalyst, an introduction for so many fans, especially young people, into hard rock, grunge, and new metal. For almost 23 years, one thing has stayed the same, and that is their willingness to go headfirst into the darker things of life. Now, as a huge Three Days Grace fan myself, and their recent rise in popularity, I'd say, due to that album last year, Alienation, I thought I would give myself the task of diving into their whole career. I've been listening to Three Days Grace since I was around 13 years old, and when I discovered them, I think everything kind of changed for me. No long form videos or content about this band to this extent. So I thought I would give myself the task, and hopefully I do them justice. So thank you so much for joining me today. Hi, I'm Soph. Welcome to my space. This is my biggest project so far on this channel. This is the type of content that I want to focus on. So thank you so much for joining me and supporting me. There is so much to go into, and this is most likely going to be a 2-part video. So stay tuned and yeah, get a snack, get comfy. We're going to be here for a while. It is time to take a deep dive into the heavy rock world of Three Days Grace. Three Days Grace begin as another stereotype, a small rock band with a dream from a little town, notably Norwood, 2 hours away from Toronto. Now, Norwood back then, and when I say back then, I mean the early 2000s, was notably not a nice place to live. We saw a lot of crazy things growing up, and a lot of our material comes from that. For a population of around 1,500 people, with just one set of streetlights, but a city's worth of drama. You get a different perspective on people, explains Brad. Everyone knows each other and you can't hide anything. Maybe that's why we can see through the facade that many people hide behind. So who are the members of Three Days Grace? Well, firstly, we have Adam Gontier. Adam was always bound to be a musician. His deep love for bands such as Black Sabbath, Soundgarden, and Pearl Jam. I think that's why I love this band so much, because they are also my favorite bands. Became his personality. He also had a huge love for Jeff Buckley, and alongside his mother being a professional pianist, it was kind of written in the stars for Adam. He learned how to play guitar at the age of 12 from his cousin and would swiftly move on to writing his own music at the age of 14. Around this time, Adam was struggling emotionally, dealing with his parents' divorce, so would find great release in songwriting. With Adam heavily into music and holding on to it like a life raft, it's only natural that he would gravitate towards others who have the same passion. Enter Neil Sanderson.
Basically started in the third day of grade 9 in high school. I met Adam and we basically started just playing as much as we possibly could.
Neil had a keen interest in music. He learned how to play the piano at a young age, and then moving on to his main position of drums at the age of 12. Adam and Neil were good friends in high school, and then they would pull in one of their other good friends, Brad Walst, who they basically convinced to play the bass because they wanted to start a band, and they needed a bass player.
Adam when I was 14, and from there we just kind of, we would tape songs off the radio on our cassettes and like learn them and just kind of play them together. He played guitar, and I was just starting bass. So.
That is the trio that we have, Adam, Neil, and Brad. So they have a band, and now it's time for the name. They called themselves Groundswell. So the band were made up of Adam, Neil, and Brad, but they also recruited two others, Joe Grant and Phil Crow. They formed the band in 1992 during high school and would have little popularity or success. So little, in fact, that it is a regular occurrence for 3 Days Grace fans to stumble upon Groundswell and think,
wait, that's Adam?
When I was doing the research for this video, I had the same reaction when I was listening to their songs, because they did release a CD. Everyone in the comment section was like, oh my god, I can't believe this exists. So the band would, like I said, release their first album independently called Wave of Popular Feeling in 1995. Only 150 CDs were ever made of this, and they were exclusively available at the Canadian Igstock Festival. I really want one. I don't even collect CDs, but I want one. Listening to the album, straight away, Adam sounds so different here. Probably because he's just younger. You can definitely hear the Pearl Jam influence here, which, you know, I'm all for. No, though, obviously it's not perfect, but you can tell it's just like a band of young guys having fun. And you can definitely hear the potential, especially in the songwriting. Okay, maybe not all the songwritings. There is one song that is... Now, during this time, there was honestly no media around this band. It was the mid-90s. Grunge bands were kind of a token at this point. You know, there were so many. The market was already saturated. And, I mean, they were still very young. Adam at the time was only 17. So they were a typical starving band. They were taking gigs wherever they could. Neil once said that we opened for a movie once. They also used to cruise around in a car with a 10 trailer on the back and walk up to local bars and play 3-hour sets.
Off Highway 7 is Norwood, 1,500 people.
Yeah.
Not much to do.
One set of streetlights.
Just one set?
Yeah, one set. About 4 stores, and that's it. You know.
What else happens? There's got to be something else that happens there.
A little bit of rock and roll, apparently.
I try to give it a
Made
go.
a lot of basement tapes, really crappy basement tapes, and just kept going. We actually, we had a K car that we used to tour in, and just
Really?
we've kind of gone from the ground up.
They knew exactly what they wanted, but they weren't making the impact. Like I said, they were blending into the whole grunge movement as another footnote, basically. But the time will come. Due to there being no interest and no popularity in the band, apart from the few members of Northwood that were interested, in 1995, after 3 years, 2 members would jump ship. That would be Phil Crow and Joe Grant. That's tough for them. The remaining members, Adam, Brad, and Neil, would go back to their day jobs, go back to their studies, and basically take a break from music for a while. Brad was actually studying to become an accountant, and during one of his lessons, he stumbled upon the new band name.
You know, I got a job working in a restaurant during the day. Neil got a job working at the Gap, and Brad was going to school for business and accounting and that sort of thing. One afternoon, Brad came back from school. He said, I think I might have heard the perfect name for a band. And he was telling us that he heard about a 3 days grace period to pay off like debts or that sort of thing. So he said, what about 3 days grace? And we thought about it, and we all agreed. We were just like, yeah, that's a great band name.
But for Adam, he saw it as something completely different. He said, for us it stands for urgency. If you had 3 days to change anything in your life, could you do it? Collectively, the band thought if they were going to be taken seriously, they needed to get out of Norwood and into the city, which is exactly what they did. They made their way to Toronto. Now, they had contacts in Toronto. I think it's an old manager or an old friend that they had. They were in a good circle full of ambitious people wanting to pursue music and get in on the scene. One of them being Gavin Brown. Now, without Gavin Brown, we probably wouldn't have 3 Days Grace as we know it today. I mean, maybe I'm exaggerating, but he is definitely a huge reason why this band got their success. So Gavin Brown is a Canadian musician and producer. During the late 90s, he spent his 20s learning his craft and focused on being in a studio environment at all times. He even became a studio drummer for a period of time. But Gavin had big goals, big aspirations, just like 3 Days Grace. At the age of 27, he made it a goal to have a #1 song and sell 1 million records within a year. And it happened. With Gavin Brown and 3 Days Grace finally meeting, 3 Days Grace would perform a 90-minute set for Gavin. Years of material that the band just had building up. From that, Gavin picked the Golden Nuggets. Gavin Brown would help 3 Days Grace produce their first EP in 2000. This EP would feature those Golden Nuggets that I mentioned, and to this day, these songs are kind of lost media, loosely termed, as they are not available on streaming. They have only been available physically on CD once, and that was when they released the EP. Only 100 copies were made, so that's like gold dust. They are available on YouTube though, you can easily listen to them there. And let me tell you, they are very telling to what the band was going to sound like. There are 4 tracks on this EP, and they are all infectious. You can definitely hear aspects of songs that would come onto the debut, such as the riff used in This Movie was the same exact riff used in the song Overrated. TV is also the same as Drown. And yeah, it's honestly like a gold mine for 3 Days Grace fans. The main song on here that really stands out to me is called This Movie. It features Trevor McNevan, and this is the only song in 3 Days Grace's catalogue that will feature rap, and it will have a featured artist on. You can kind of tell though that they tried it out once and then they were kind of like, maybe we shouldn't do that again. But it is like a really cool thing to hear. Definitely very 2000s. I think they were taking huge inspiration from Linkin Park. The other songs were TV, In Front of Me, and My Own Life. Like I said, this CD is extremely rare these days. Good luck trying to find one. If anyone does have one, please let us know, because that is like such a flex. They sent the demo tape off to companies. It features a completely different version of I Hate Everything About You, Burn, Now or Never, and I think Born Like This. The I Hate Everything About You, this version it's the same but also different. There's like a moment towards the end of the song where you can hear this woman or woman-like voice like shouting love me or love you, and it's very striking. I'm happy that they removed it, because when I heard it I was kind of like, what the. But I have heard that apparently that is just Adam doing a falsetto, and yeah, that man's voice is just ridiculous. It caught the attention of EMI Canada, specifically their president Mike McAfee. So with this huge nudge of interest from EMI of all places, the band were finally getting some recognition. So both Gavin and 3 Days Grace would go back and think, okay, what can we offer Mike McAfee to really blow him away? It is an understatement to put into words how happy Mike McAfee was with I Hate Everything About You.
Of those inside.
And it wasn't just EMI who loved the song. Thanks to 3 Days Grace's team, I Hate Everything About You and that demo tape specifically was given out to several record companies, and they were all very interested. Now, during this era, it is the early 2000s, there has been a huge boom in heavy rock, the grittier the better. With the decade opening with a powerhouse of an album like Hybrid Theory by Linkin Park, this really set the tone and influence for the next coming years, or decade I guess you could argue. Other bands prominent at this time were the White Stripes, mainly with White Blood Cells at this time, Limp Bizkit's Chocolate Starfish, and System of a Down's Toxicity, which were both released in 2001. It's also worth to mention that Evanescence would be on the horizon with their smashing debut Fallen in 2003. So that's basically to give you the glimpse of the media at this time. Emo wasn't in the mainstream yet, but it was fast approaching. Also, it's just good to know the landscape at the time, what music was looking like, and it's really interesting to look at music these days and how that music is now bigger than ever. Okay, back to 3 Days Grace. So everyone loved the song, everyone loved I Hear Everything About You, they knew it was good. The band would start playing live shows around Toronto. One record company that was extremely interested was Jive Records. Their group would actually end up inviting the band to New York after a show, which obviously they graciously accepted. Neil recounts, "We were drinking wine with President Barry Weiss, and he was talking about our music as if he hadn't stopped listening to it for weeks." Adam also said, "Having the president of the company involved in that sort of way is a big sign of how the company works." So they would be signed to Jive Records and be placed under Zomba label group. They got their record deal. That's what they always wanted. That's what every band dreams of. So it was time for them to make their first album.
Hey, we're 3 Days Grace. This is Neil, Brad, I'm Adam.
And we know where you live.
3 Days Grace would naturally bring on Gavin Brown to produce their debut album. They would move from Toronto to Massachusetts to record. Moving to a new city and not having much to do, not having much of a social life, they were locked in to the max. They already had years of material built up, ready to go. The songs themselves dealt with growing up in a small town, being bullied, and everyone kind of knowing your business.
And, you know, to write about flowers and happy shit is, to me, why would I write that?
The frustrations with living in small towns, the rage, the people not taking you seriously, it is great fuel for the fire. Anger was the main release for this band. It was the main message. I'm pissed off, let's put it in a song. Their stint in Massachusetts wouldn't last long. After getting halfway done, they would actually relocate to Beersville studio, oh my god, in New York. That studio was actually the location where Jeff Buckley recorded his album Grace, so Adam was just thrilled. The album would be hard work for the band, but it would ultimately pay off. I mean, work hard, play hard, right? Gavin would really push Adam to his limits to try and get the best vocal take. For instance, he used to bully him and say that he sucked at singing to get him to perform well.
When I was cutting vocals, our producer Gavin Brown used to freak out and jump up and down in front of the vocal booth just to get me pumped up and stuff, you know, and it worked.
It took them 6 months to make the album, and what they produced, they were not holding back. It was as real as you could get, and it was definitely very much them. 2003 seemed to be a perfect year for them to drop the album. I mean, 3 Days Grace, 2003, free. Also, a quick shout out to Neil, who married his wife Janin in 2003. It was a very big year for the boys. The album would be released on July 22nd, 2003.
So buy our record.
It's worth to note that this is the only 3 Days Grace album that is recorded entirely as a trio. So remember that. The album itself would meet mostly praise. All music says that the debut is a little uneven, but it's also promising. 3 Days Grace are definitely one of the most accessible alt metal bands of the 2000s. They just need to add some more distinctiveness to their sound. IGN said every single song is heavy and catchy with chewy chunks of assurance and fury. And then on the other side, you had magazines like Spin say generic Canadian gripe rock. It's also good to note that this album is lightly a concept album. I love a concept album, guys. You don't get me started on it. They wanted the album to be cohesive down to the sounds, to the artwork, and the music videos. It really does show and really pays off.
We wanted to make sure that our artwork sort of is going to be relevant to our video, and that the things that we really stand for come out. You know, we feel like we have something to say.
Both of the music videos for I Hate Everything About You and Just Like You have this gritty, kind of very 2000s edge to them. But to be honest, like, a lot of 2000s rock videos are like the same. They have that edge that you can't really put your finger on. You can't really describe what you're watching, but you know it was made in the early 2000s. They just awaken such a aesthetic and vibe that just fits so perfectly with the songs. But anyway, it was spanned 4 singles, the aforementioned I Hate Everything About You, Just Like You, Home, and Wake Up. They actually made 2 versions of the Just Like You music video. I'm not sure why. I'm not really sure which one is also my favorite. I think the one of Adam dancing around in a white room is my favorite. And it's funny that that happens twice in the 3 Days Grace canon.
If I had a nickel for every time
Adam was dancing around the white room.
I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice.
But my favorite music video is probably the one for Home, because oh my god, that woman is just so cool. And the whole vibe, and Adam has like blonde streaks in his hair, and I'm just like,
God is good! God is great!
For me, the debut has always been in my top 3 favorite albums from 3 Days Grace. For a long time, it was actually my number 1 favorite. It's definitely like up in one of my most influential albums for me personally. My top 3 tracks, which it's really hard to narrow down my top 3, but my top 3 personal favorites are Home, Drown, and Just Like You. The album was not a flop. The album's lead single propelled the band. The record companies were right when they could hear money. They could hear money being printed when they heard I Hate Everything About You. The song would reach number 4 on the mainstream rock chart, number 2 on the modern rock chart, and number 1 on the Canadian rock chart. Like, that must have been a dream come true. It's one of their biggest songs still today. It's usually the first track you hear from the band, the number 1 song on Spotify and YouTube. It's also the band's longest running song on those charts that I just mentioned, lasting for 46 weeks. What? We get it. You hate everything about me. It was also the 9th best performing song of the decade on the modern rock track chart. It had a substantial amount of radio play. Jive's president actually called it perfect rock radio. And I mean, radio was huge back then. If you could get a big hit on radio, you were set. And can we just take a moment for that drum breakdown, please? So with the release of the album in July, they were immediately thrown on tour. They were on tour with a band called Trapped, a post-grunge band. Neil would say, at the end of the day, it's our job to go on stage and own it for 45 minutes. The band were having a great time. They released their first album. They were on a high. They were doing what they wanted. They were getting paid for it. But things would change during a rehearsal session in Toronto.
A new member of the band, Barry Stock, on guitar.
Barry Stock was rehearsing with his own band when his manager asked if he wouldn't mind lending a hand with another local band. He probably didn't think much of it when he saw 3 young guys needing help with their gear. The oldest out the group, Barry wasn't fazed by the tight-knit group, quite the opposite. Adam, Neil, and Brad instantly kicked it off with Barry, and this swiftly turned into an audition to join the band and become the band's second guitarist, which Barry agreed to. It was really good with Barry because he gelled so well with us. And it was like we knew him for 10 years already. With him, I think our live shows is a lot more intense and full sounding, and I think he adds to our image as well. He fills it out so much. There were a lot of parts on the record that we couldn't accomplish as a free piece on stage, but now we can do that with him. He's got all the leads down and he brings us to the next level for sure. Barry started off young. He joined his first band when he was 15. At that time he could only play AC/DC tracks, but this band would push him to his limits. He'd learn more technical songs like Iron Maiden and Judas Priest just to keep up with them. Being in a band with people that are better than you, it keeps you on your toes. There's also this video I found when I was researching Barry, and it's so dramatic, and I just have to play a snippet of it here because I was crying. But he always surrounded himself with people who were better than him. He watched and learned, literally. So with Barry on board, 3 Days Grace were now 4 Days Grace. I'm so happy that they didn't change the name though. And a few months later, 3 Days Grace would be opening for a little band called Nickelback. This is very much in the How You Remind Me era, and this definitely got them on so many people's radars. After that huge tour, they would have a couple of months of New Year's into 2004, and the band would embark on a world tour, playing shows in Europe, Australia, and Brazil. It's also worth noting that the I Hate craze would definitely start kicking it up a notch in 2004. 2003 was the year of them getting themselves out there. 2004 was when they would start seeing the results that they wanted. Their shows weren't obviously very long as they only had that one album of material. They would basically play the majority of their album and usually a Nirvana cover, the song School. After the world tour, the band would take a 2-week break. This is when Adam would marry his high school sweetheart, Naomi, in May of 2004.
I actually found out while researching their wedding that the tattoo Adam has on his bicep is of Naomi, so that's really cute.
But then things would pick up again and they would be thrown back on tour. This time opening for bands such as Siva, Evanescence, Told You to Remember Them. They would also start getting nominations such as Best New Group of the Year for the 2004 Juno Awards and Best Rock Video at the Much Music Video Awards. Also back in the day, they had these like sexiest insert job here lists. Thinking back now, it's very much a product of its time. I don't think they have stuff like that these days. I know they have like Sexiest Man Alive. Anyway, Adam made it onto one of those lists. He made it on the 20 sexiest Canadian musicians. Shout out to Canada. Also, very randomly, the band were in a Hilary Duff movie. If you're a Hilary Duff fan, I'm about to blow your mind. They were in a movie called Raise Your Voice. You know, I've never seen the movie, but according to Adam at the time, he thought that it really wasn't cool to be in that movie.
I do remember when we were shooting that scene. It was in a bar in a club, and the director asked me to grab Hilary Duff's hand, and I didn't want to do that. No, okay, that's not cool. So he said to me, okay, you don't have to grab her hand, just reach out or whatever like this. So I did that. And then the movie came out however long after, and I am holding her hand. So they CGI'd me grabbing her hand, and at the time I wasn't very happy about it, but now I don't really care. But back then I was too cool for that.
But in hindsight, like, that's good exposure. Unfortunately, though, no one actually watched the movie. It was kind of a flop. So it's still a nice bit of early noughties media featuring 3 Days Grace. Despite the highs of a debut, doing well, a brand new member in the band, and a movie cameo, touring the world, it was a struggle for the guys to adjust to, especially Adam. It's no secret for any listener of 3 Days Grace that the lyrics are dark. Adam would mention in interviews that he writes from a dark place. Sometimes the adrenaline from a show is enough to fuel him, but what happens after the penultimate fall after the show? You go back to that dark place that you had forgotten about for the past 60 minutes. And that's exactly what Adam was going through. He said, "We got thrown on tour. We were in a situation we'd never been in before, being away from our family and friends for 2 years. It took its toll, and I ended up getting addicted to painkillers." It wasn't just a factor of partying too hard and living the rock style life. Adam had been upfront with his mental issues. He'd been writing very dark material since he was 14 years old. You can just tell by listening to the songs and listening to those lyrics. For instance, the song Drown is by far one of the darkest deceptions of living with depression. He says, "Good morning day, sorry you're not here. All those times before, we're never this unclear. It's hard to walk when you can't even crawl. Once I had this world, and now I've lost it all." So many times when we were touring in the United States, I found myself in the darkest part of town looking for street drugs, which isn't to say that I didn't go to a couple of doctors and say I had serious pain and needed medication for it. I did that a couple of times as well, but because of the amount I was doing, that didn't suffice. Now, this heavy touring cycle that they were living through for 2 years would take its toll on anyone. But with the tour machine finally falling silent in 2005, the band would come out the other end with a debut album selling 1.2 million copies and one addict. And at that point, Adam knew that he needed help. He would come off those crazy 2 years with even more demons to fight. He said, "I started to become a different person. I changed. I think I became a selfish person, you know? And when we got off the road, I had realized what kind of person I had actually become, and I wanted to change that. So the timing was perfect. Where we came off the road and I kind of felt alone, I felt like I had a lot of things that I had to deal with. And I wasn't sure if anyone really understood me in my personal life, in my job, with the band, everything." So I said in 2005 that the touring machine fell silent. That wasn't entirely true. They did play a total of 25 shows though. So that is a vast difference to what they played from 2002 to 2004. Despite the headline shows, they also had opening slots for Velvet Revolver and Shinedown. But Adam was struggling. He was struggling hard. So with help from his bandmates, his wife, his family, he would check into rehab, Center for Addiction and Mental Health in Toronto. This is where he'd begin to write material for the next 3 Days Grace album. And if the band thought that the first era was crazy enough, everything would be turned up to the max for the next one.
If I hadn't have given up my drug of choice, I'd probably be in jail or I'd be dead. So anyway, that's that. Haven't given up smoking yet.
3 Days Grace never planned their sophomore album to be a biographical affair. It would also become their most successful record ever. With the band now being a 4-piece thanks to Barry, the band would get started on making their second album in February of 2005. It was originally going to be produced by Gavin Brown. They scheduled the album to be released in the summer of 2005, but this did not happen. In fact, the album wouldn't come out until 2006. After Adam got out of rehab, the band collectively took a break. And I mean, they deserve it. They would eventually reunite at a practice space in Toronto.
We went back to the roots and just jammed with acoustic guitars up at Neil's Cottage, actually, which is northern Ontario in the middle of nowhere. It was basically the same way we wrote the first one.
I think when we were making this record, we weren't really focused on, the pressure. There is a little bit of pressure, to kind of rush something out and get something out there. But for us, we just, we play music and we write songs.
When discussing the process of writing new music, Adam said, "It's got a lot of my sort of journal entries from the last couple of years. Generally, the lyrics are written separate from the music. After music's been written or before, it doesn't really matter. We sit together and come up with music and lyrics. I write lyrics sometimes during the day, on the bus or whatever. It's all over the place." Now, Writing is a hard thing to do, especially when all the lyrics that you have are so personal. Adam was definitely placing himself in a really vulnerable state, and I think connecting and sharing what he was thinking with his bandmates was probably a really big comfort for him. Through sharing his feelings, he actually discovered that the members of the band were also feeling the same way. They also related with the feeling of isolation and disenchantment from this harsh touring schedule that they had.
You know, the road, it seems like everybody, there's a myth that it's very glamorous, and it's always, you know, it's sex, drugs, and rock and roll, or whatever, you know, that type of thing. And it's really not.
You become people that you don't want to be. And I think, you know, after we did 22 months, and the communication kind of breaks down somewhere.
This just shows that taking a break for a band's mental health or an artist's mental health is so vital, and just to not rush things. This is why the album was pushed back another year, because they didn't want, and I quote, to screw with their creativity. So thank God that they took their time. Everybody had different riffs, different melodies, different ideas for songs that had been sort of accumulating over the last few years of touring. So when we got home, it was a matter of us coming together and putting those parts together. So each song on the record has something different from every single member of the band. One of the things I truly admire about this band is their collaboration style when it comes to writing music. There are so many bands where it's just they have two songwriters or one songwriter, and the rest of them just kind of follow their lead. It's just really admirable that each member has input. Now, with the time off and the new material that they had, the band would say goodbye to Gavin Brown, and they would actually decide to record the album in California and work alongside the legendary, legend, and I do not use the word legend lightly, producer Howard Benson. Howard has helped produce some of the gems, the absolute emo classics. My Chemical Romance's Three Cheers for Sweet Revenge. Yes. Three Cheers for Sweet Revenge was Howard Benson. He also produced the All-American Rejects' Move Along in 2005. And now he's working with 3 Days Grace and producing their next album, 1X. Adam said about working with Howard Benson, I think the biggest thing I learned from working with him is there's so much you can do with your voice, and there's so many different weird harmonies. There's things out there that a lot of singers and bands don't use. With deep personal lyrics about life struggles and just the exhausting nature of being alive. Arm in arm with the producer that gave us Three Cheers for Frickin' Revenge, the band were on to making a smash hit. And it's almost like the band made their second concept album. There is a similarity between each song. It's all very conceptualized in this gritty, black and red world. The world would finally see the return of 3 Days Grace with the release of their new single, Animal I Have Become, on the 10th of April 2006.
The first single, Animal I Become, is it's about, feeling like you become something that you don't want to be. Everybody's got a dark side, and Animal I Become is about that. It's about a dark side that sort of controls you and takes you over, and it's about asking for help, it's trying to tame that.
The band actually started working on the song back in 2004 when it was just an acoustic demo, but they came back to it knowing that something was there. And Brad said, I remember saying that riff would be great heavy. We started jamming it as a heavy song, and it was like, shit, I think we've nailed it. And the boys did nail it. They had just written a #1 hit. It spent 7 weeks at #1 on the US mainstream rock chart and 2 weeks at #1 on the US modern rock chart. And it would even chart over in the UK for the first time in their careers, albeit it was peaking at 29 on the UK rock and metal chart. But that's still a huge deal for this Canadian band. With a few live shows to get back into the swing of things, the band would release 1X on the 13th of June 2006, basically a year after they were originally scheduled to release it. This album truly brought their sound to the next level. The guitars are chunkier, they hit way harder. You can hear Barry's influence from a mile away, especially kicking off with a beast of a song like It's All Over. The whole album just feels so much bigger and more intense, start to finish, and it did have its mix of criticism. Also, this album is progressively emo sounding. I think that is thanks to Howard Benson. It still has that kind of post-grunge edge. Howard Benson just knows emo, man. If he's got his fingers on it, it's gonna be emo in some sort of way. Going back to the criticism, the band would be compared to their alt metal counterparts, saying how the album lacked in distinctive qualities that could separate them from the pack. A critic called K. Roth stated that the band had lost their soul and how their debut was a lot better.
That is not correct.
But the fans and the rock world in general would agree the pain was worth it. It was a critical and commercial success, and to this day it's gone triple platinum in Canada and the US. It also achieved silver in the UK, gold in New Zealand and Denmark, and platinum in Poland. The Polish don't play about 3 Days Grace. For me, 1X is probably up there again as one of my all-time favorites. My favorite songs from this one are Time of Dying, Get Out Alive, and It's All Over. And that was really hard to pick, okay? But one of the most notable tracks is a song called Never Too Late.
This world will never be what I expected.
It's a song that holds a lot of heart, an important message, and I think when Adam wrote the song, he wrote with intent. It's a song about determination and resilience. Today would call it 3 Days Grace's most inspiring tune. I mean, they didn't exactly have a lot of inspirational tunes in the first place. A lot of it is pretty bleak, but it is a nice change of perspective and probably a nice change for Adam to sing about something more optimistic. Adam would say about the song, I guess it's like feeling like you're at the end of your rope and deciding whether or not to completely give up or whether or not to try and sort of keep making it through another day. That song is about not giving up. Having a guy like Adam be so vocal and upfront about his emotions, feelings, it made him sort of a figurehead for men's mental health, which is huge in itself. And he would continue to advocate for mental health, especially for men, throughout the music, throughout performances. With a song as impactful and important as Never Too Late, the band knew that it was a single. They would release a music video which featured Adam's wife Naomi, who actually helped co-write the song, as during this period they were both battling addiction, so this song was really helping them see the light at the end of the tunnel. Never Too Late would stay number 1 on the mainstream rock chart for 7 weeks. In August 2007, a little over a year after the album dropped, and would stay in the alternate airplay chart for 43 weeks, beating out their other 2 hits, which were Pain and Animal I Have Become. In 2020, Loudwire would release a list 66 best hard rock songs of the 21st century. Never Too Late would be listed amongst the likes of Linkin Park's In the End, Rise Against Savior, and Tour's Schism? I don't know how to say it, but I love Tour, so that song. Basically, Never Too Late was a movement for the band. It was a step in the right direction for what type of band they wanted to be. And with that, it's time to go back on tour again. Whilst touring, Adam wanted to make it a point that he wanted to give back to others who were struggling, just like he was. He was truly so thankful for the support that he had when he was in rehab. So whilst touring the United States, the band would do a bunch of free concerts for rehab centers, detention centers, and treatment facilities. It was dubbed the 3 Days to Change tour. Adam would hold a Q&A with the attendees, sharing his journey, his personal experience, hopefully inspiring those people. He saw it as a replacement to attending Narcotics Anonymous. It's therapeutic in a way to do, and definitely reminds me of where I was and where I could be again. The whole band did the first one. It was in Utah, and it was a pretty big place. There was a lot of people there. I was nervous a little bit at first because I wasn't sure what was going to happen, but it went really well. But in these situations, it's not so much about the music, it's about what I'm trying to say and the message. So it was a little bit intimidating because I had no idea what these kids would think. They were kind of like, why is this guy here? Don't know his music anyway, so why do we really care? So they warmed up to me really quick, enjoyed the songs that I played, and just opened up. It was very cool. During the Q&A segment, some members of the crowd expected Adam to have the answers, even bordering on medical advice. He said, I don't really think about what I'm saying. I just say what comes naturally at the time. But as for medical type questions, those are hard to answer. I just like to talk about the situation and just to give a little bit of inspiration. The band would tour 1X from 2006 to 2008. They would get support from bands such as Breaking Benjamin, Flyleaf, and Puddle of Mud. You know that one band? You could be my sunshine, you could be my... I can't believe that Puddle of Mud song was like a trend on TikTok. People do not know what that song is about. It is not a love song. Please stop posting it with your partners. They would also support for Stained in September 2006 and Nickelback again on the All the Right Reasons tour in 2007. Some of these bands would become a mainstay for 3 Days Grace throughout their career, such as Breaking Benjamin. They did a big joint tour with them last year. They would release some extra content for 1X, including a special release in Japan and the UK. The CD would have a bonus track called Running Away. And this is actually one of my favorite 3 Days Grace songs, like, ever. It's widely available online, on streaming, and it's actually unfinished. I think it sounds really good for an unfinished song. Yeah, if you haven't heard Running Away, go listen to it right now. You will not be disappointed. I'm really hoping that they have something special planned this year, as it is the 20th anniversary of this album. I'm praying for like some really exclusive like vinyl pressings or something. Adam would release a documentary called Behind the Pain, which went into detail about his struggles and how he overcame them, his journey through recovery. There is some of it available online on YouTube, but I'm not sure if it is the whole thing. Finally, in 2008, the band would release their first live show on DVD. This is back when it was normal for bands to release shows on DVD. I really wish that it was normalized, because these days it's like a live stream and that's it. Like, bring back physical concerts, damn it. This was recorded at the Palace of Urban Hills, which now has been demolished, sadly, in Michigan. I do find it funny that this DVD was only available to buy at Best Buy, and it makes me think like this album was so huge, but you only have the DVD available at Best Buy. It is now widely available to watch here on YouTube, and honestly, I highly recommend it, especially Adam's cover of Alice in Chains' Rooster and the Hey Man, Nice Shot segment. I was gagged, okay? So good. So how could they top the 1X era? The album left us with hope. The final track is called 1X, and it closes out with the lyrics, "We get knocked down, get back up, we stand above the crowd." That was predominantly the new message for the band. For 3 Days Grace, the touring machine was full go for around 5 years. But when they finally came off tour in 2008, they wanted a break. And unfortunately, they would be hit hard in the face with reality. Brad's youngest son would be diagnosed with cancer, which really put things and life into perspective. Brad would point to the famous John Lennon lyric, Life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. Barry would say to Deadbolt, a few of us had to deal with some real personal issues as far as people being sick in our families, death in some cases, and it almost had to take us to that, an experience for us to realize that sometimes you've just got to deal with the hand that's given to you. Again, 3 Days Grace has always been that little bit of hope for people, and that's the same thing with us. It's just a new sense of freshness. Now, thankfully, Brad's son did make a full recovery. He even appeared on stage with 3 Days Grace many years later. But holding on to the sentiment of giving hope to others, like I said, that was the new overall message for the band. Hope carries on drastically to the next album. And saying that, the next album would have a much brighter outlook on life, more optimistic. It also shows them growing, evolving as artists and taking chances. This is something that the band would lack in the next coming years, but I digress. Barry would say, this time around, we really wanted to go with something different than what we've done in the past. And when he says that, he mainly means a departure from the angry, dark tone that the first two albums are full of. So what was the new 3 Days Grace sound?
Done all the things that could kill you somehow, and you're so far down. But you will survive it somehow because life starts now.
This time, the band stayed and recorded the album in Toronto. Pre-production would wrap in January 2009, and the album would take 7 months to make. They would have the absolute GOAT, Howard Benson, back. I mean, why would you go with any other producer? The music itself is experimental, more intricate. You can hear them coming into their own with their craft that they've been trying to perfect all this time. This is also the first album that is completely live recorded, all together in the same room.
We wanted to give this record a live feel, you know. We wanted to make it seem like when you listen to the record, you were in the room with the band. You know, that was our goal, and I think we did that.
They really wanted a raw and real sound. It was also a lot of playing off each other, riffing, seeing where a song would go in the studio, not just each member laying down their track separately. And you can definitely tell that. You can definitely tell from the overall energy. It was also another example of how well they write as a band. So we trust each other as a songwriting group. If one person is like, oh man, I'm not feeling that part, my cheese meter is going off, we're at the point where we've spent so much time together that we can respect that there's probably a good reason for that person to be feeling that. So until it's like, wow, that's awesome, then we put it away for a little bit and then we come back and readjust it. Everything is a work in progress until it's done. They would rework the songs that they had written from 2007 until everyone was satisfied. Coming out of the darkness of the first two albums and into this brighter, optimistic existence.
Plus we're wearing white and hot pink suits, right? So it's gotta be good.
The band were truly starting over. Down to questioning their own mortality, this was a band starting over, a new beginning. The first single that they would release for the new album is Break, alongside a very colourful music video. The lyrics show the new era clear as day. Tonight, my head is spinning. I need something to pick me up. I've tried, but nothing is working. I won't stop. I won't say I've had enough. Same sentiment of not giving up. Barry says this about the song. It's really just about if you don't like the situation you're in or what's going on around you, it's entirely up to you to break out of it. That's it. It's pretty much just breaking out and letting loose. You don't have to be stuck in whatever it is that you're dealing with. Whether it's good or bad, it's your choice to make a change. And oh my god, why is this video, why is the contrast up to like 1 billion? It's so early 2010s and it's 2009, okay? But like put both of these music videos side and side. It's so telling that the change is like adamant here.
It's kind of a different idea for us. There's no real set. We're just doing it in front of a green screen. So a lot of it's going to be post-production and special effects and stuff. So it's a different thing for us.
Also, the song features a fucking whistle, okay? Like, of course it's a fucking hit. Also, I love how fans get so excited over the whistle.
blows the whistle?
I do.
Adam blows.
All right. What do you in the record? Is there one whistle?
Right now, there's one whistle, and it's we're keeping a very close eye on it.
But it never makes it on stage.
Somehow it
Yeah, for some reason. What's funny is we actually had this conversation with our techs yesterday about what we were going to do with the whistle, if we were going to have a tech, if we were going to put them in a case, if we're going to get like 10 of them.
There's a million questions that could be asked about this whistle.
If we keep talking about this whistle, we're all going to get Fox 40 endorsements, man.
That'd be nice.
Let's stop talking about whistles.
I can't say whistle anymore.
The single itself would land another #1 hit for the band, this time on the US Hot Rock and Alt chart, and it would also get to #2 on the Canadian rock chart. And with that, the new album, Life Starts Now, was released on September 22nd, 2009. I can't talk about this album without talking about the gorgeous artwork. I didn't mention the 1X artwork, features the paper dolls, but let's just take a look at both of these covers. Just look at the difference. If this doesn't say Evolution, the artwork was done by illustrator Adrian Nopik, Polish artist. I'm really sorry, I probably just slated that name. Personally, Life Starts Now is my favorite album art that the band ever did. The colors are just stunning. Purple is my favorite color, so I'm gonna be a bit biased here, but the gradient is just striking. Also, fans theorized that the album was going to be called The Crying Room. I'm really glad it wasn't. The album would receive mixed reviews yet again. I mean, I was really surprised. I don't really know how exactly. Let's just take a look at what the critics have to say. Someone said rehash of #2, which is crazy work. The Toronto Star went even further, saying it possesses no sound of its own, just a shallow range between Nickelback and Linkin Park. Other reviews were a lot more positive. Alternative Addiction states it's the band's best album to date and goes on further to say several outstanding songs on this record, several that stand out more than others, but the album still feels complete when listening to it front to back. They made a really great statement too, which really captures the era perfectly. A record should capture a band at a certain point in time, kind of like a snapshot. This captures where 3 Days Grace is right now. This review is probably one of the best when I was researching. It really sums up the message that the band wanted to put forth. They didn't want to be the same band anymore. To say that Life Starts Now is a rehash of 1X, you need to go back to school. You need to listen again, because it is certainly not the same thing. As I mentioned with the album cover, the whole vibe and aesthetic of the band completely changed. It's also home to the best musicianship from each member of the band. The album itself would land at #2 on 4 charts. Despite the chart success, it wouldn't reach charts overseas, but it would be scored platinum in US and double platinum in Canada, respectively. The other single that would follow Break is called The Good Life. This was a blatant single in the making. It features a lot, and I mean a lot, of fuzz, taking inspo from the likes of giants such as Led Zeppelin. For me though, it is rather repetitive, but it's definitely a solid rock radio song. The Good Life would land #1 on the rock and alt chart in the US. Afterwards came a song called World So Cold, a slower, more personal song about Adam dealing with grief.
This song's just about, somebody in your life that's really important to you that has left you, and you're just basically just hurting without them,
We recorded outside because we wanted to, we just wanted to have a different sound on that song. We wanted also to see what would happen to the neighborhood when they heard him screaming at the top of his lungs. Also, I love the way the echo is out there in the courtyard. It's a real echo. It's not fake. And it comes through the microphone. You can hear the birds twittering and all kinds of stuff. So it was just, and also I wanted to give him a different vibe. Out there, he sang probably a little harder than he normally would have sung, but that was the kind of song we had for that anyway. He wasn't sort of in a little room. He was in a big, huge open space. So it was almost like doing a live show in front of a lot of people. And that was kind of what we were trying to do with that.
During my research for this whole video, I stumbled across the piano version of the song, which I never heard before. It's not on Spotify, it's not on streaming, so this was a treat to stumble upon. It's a whole new level of rawness, but honestly, you can't beat the funky intro. Like, I remember the first time hearing it, And I was like, is this the same band? The piano version is beautiful. I highly recommend it. It was only available on the Japanese edition of the album. Back to the musical shift and overall tone of the band, one of the biggest changes was the inclusion of a blatant love song. The band do not write love songs. Usually there is a sparse amount. Like, I'm trying to think of one right now before this song and I can't. No, I can't think of any. Neil would say about the song, I think that's one of the best songs you've ever written. It's fun to play and we're getting a great response to it. The song would be Lost in You. It was clear how proud that the band were with this one. It would be the 4th single off the album. It received a lot of radio play around Canada. It's a shame that it didn't get as much attention as it deserved because it really is one of their best. It didn't get the attention like Never Too Late did. It is funny in hindsight, so many fans today praise this album and a lot of them cite it as their turning point when they realize that they love this band. A lot of people say that it is the band's best album. At the time though, it was still very mixed because people were used to the dark, gritty 3 Days Grace. But the song Lost in You would actually win the Pop Rock Music Award at the 2012 SOCAN Awards. My top 3 songs on Life Starts Now. Oh god, that is hard. That is a hard one. Probably, and these aren't in any particular order because I cannot do that. But my top 3 are probably Without You, Life Starts Now, and it's between No More and Bully. I don't know. Yeah, I'm just gonna say those four are my favourites. And also Lost in You is just a really beautiful song. Ever with the touring band, they would do a radio circuit around the US as promo. So 2009 of them, honestly.
We're back. It's
And
nice
you
to be
smell
back.
good. You don't smell like rock stars. You smell good.
Well,
What's
thank
up?
you.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
What's the flavor you're wearing, Adam? You know?
It's my own personal fragrance. I just created.
They would embark on the Life Starts Now tour with 20 shows across Canada and move on to the US shows at the start of 2010, having support by The Used and Default. They did some great covers on this tour, including Alice in Chains' Rooster Again, Adam's song with Apocalyptica, I can't say names. Adam's song with
Apocalyptica
called I Don't Care.
I did feel kind of stupid not including this song in the 1X segment, but basically I Don't Care came out in 2008 and it was a huge hit for the band and for Adam. I think that's probably why they played it on tour, and it is such a good song, honestly. I did not know anything about this band until I was making this video. The song actually set a record for the band. They were the first Finnish band to receive a #1 in America, so that's really cool. Yeah, you should totally go listen to it because it's great.
Phil Collins in the Air Tonight. 3 Days Grace covering Phil Collins, please. Tom Petty's Free Falling, Fleetwood Mac's The Chain, which funny enough, the B-side to Lost in You is The Chain. It seems like a random inclusion though. Why didn't they just pick a song off Life Starts Now? They could have picked like Going Down or Last to Know or something. But what got me the most gagged, okay, the most holy shit, why wasn't I alive to witness this? Well, I was alive, but I was 9. Is their cover of Pearl Jam's Black. I should have been there. Yeah, I was 9 and in the UK, but I should have been there. But this was such a good era for the band. They were healthy, they were clean, there was no drama.
Who the f is that? What? What? I'm sorry, I can't hear you. You say you suck for money. Yeah, absolutely you do.
What? Oh, comma. Salt Lake, Utah, dude. Get your fucking mind out of the gutter.
has been your biggest challenge as a band? Have you overcome this challenge, and if so, how?
I think just staying healthy, you know, being on the road, that you can kind of get into a lifestyle that, you know, you can kind of, you know, get ahead of yourself, and we definitely had to learn that, you know, sometimes the hard way. I think it comes with experience that you need to kind of stay healthy to be able to survive, you know.
The band would tour through 2012, including a benefit concert to help victims struggling after the Nashville flood in 2010. Also this year, Adam would debut the famous Terminator mic stand, which he still uses to this day. He commissioned the piece. It's by artist Chris Conte. They would end the year with another #1 hit with World So Cold. So that is 3 singles gone to #1. Another leg of the Life Starts Now tour would begin in 2011, featuring support from a little band called My Darkest Days. We will get there later. Now, the band were at a steady rhythm. They would write on tour, get home, have a couple of weeks rest, and then back in the studio they go for their next album. They usually had a new album every 3 years. Life Starts Now was a triumphant, successful rebrand. They were really coming into their own, exuding optimism. It's still so obvious when you listen to those songs today. So what would be next for the band? Neil told Loudwire the band went for a tighter, more artificial sound and avoided going over the top in ambience and overall production for this new album. Maybe alarm bells started ringing for fans when your favorite band says that they are going for a more articulated sound. That can cause a little bit of a anxiety stir, especially for a band like 3 Days Grace, who loved to just, you know, play it loose, raw, play off each other. They didn't have Howard Benson on board this time. They had producer Don Gilmore. You may be wondering, who's Don Gilmore? Why is he important? He only produced probably the biggest album of the 2000s, the new metal masterpiece Hybrid Theory by Linkin Park. So hopes were pretty high. On the 5th of June 2012, the band would release a trailer for the album. Yes, a trailer. How dramatic is that? Like, we don't get bands posting trailers anymore. They also chose this particular day, 5th of June 2012, because this was the day Venus appeared as a small dark spot passing across the face of the sun. The phenomenon is called transit of Venus. It's one of the rarest celestial phenomena, and it occurs in pairs. The previous transit occurred in 2004. The next one is estimated to be in the 22nd century, 2117. So we ain't going to be around for that. Anyway, the concept of marketing your album surrounded by celestial phenomena is pretty cool. It's a pretty cool concept.
There were a couple of things that we sort of drew from there, sort of metaphorically. There was a poem that we had read that was written in 1882 during the last transit of Venus by an astronomer / poet that was talking about, you know, witnessing, seeing this planet, you know, pass in front of the sun, and sort of like, you know, he's talking in this poem about if you were to take a step back and look at what we are, all we are is a little speck, you know, moving through space as well. We've always written about, you know, moving through difficult times, moving through problems and the problems of and difficulties that everybody faces, and when you start thinking on that level, it can help kind of help you realize that things that you think are such a huge deal really aren't all the time, and that you can move through it.
No one else is doing that. This was something fresh and different, something that the band keeps doing with each new era. They want to keep reinventing themselves, and that also mirrors with the music that they're making.
Don't speak. Give me a reason to turn and run. Give me a reason to burn this house down. Give me a reason. I wish you would. I wish you would. Wish you would.
Transit of Venus saw the band approaching music entirely differently. Instead of how in the past they'd come in the studio with songs already written, rehashing them, creating them together, this time around they spent 3.5 months writing the material. This process would also have them recording live recordings like they did with Life Starts Now. I think they just really liked the atmosphere and that way of recording a lot more than putting tracks down.
So we took a lot of time just trying to get great tones, and I think having Don Gilmore on board really helped with that. Like, he's a really creative guy and very hands-on, you know, first one in the studio, last one out, and he actually pushed us a lot, you know, just to try new things, and a lot of it was cool because a lot of it's like live off the floor.
It's also worth to note that the song Give Me a Reason on the album was the first take, which is crazy to me. Like I said, when a band says that they're taking a new approach to things, fans can either be filled with excitement or dread. The first single was called Chalk Outline. It dropped on August 14th and was met with very high praise from critics. Loudwire applauded Adam for his return to the angsty, loud, raw sound we fell in love with, especially on 1X, which kind of like, it makes me think, why would they saying stuff like how it's going to be different when really we're resorting back to what this band is renowned for. Also, this is crazy to me. I didn't realize how much people love this song because me, like, I always thought it was good but not insanely amazing. But Billboard named Chalk Outline number 8 for the greatest of all time mainstream rock songs. Out of 100, by the way. Break is also number 7 on that list. Just never underestimate 3 Days Grace, guys, never. But Chalk Outline wouldn't reach number 1, unfortunately. It would peak at number 2 in Canada and end up going gold and platinum in Canada and US. There's a song floating around on YouTube as well that is considered a Transit of Venus unreleased track. This is false. The video's been up for like 13 years and no one's mentioned this. Yeah, that song, Figured Out, is not a 3 Days Grace song. It is actually a song by Evans Blue, another Canadian rock band. The song is actually called Say It, and it's like widely regarded as like this hoax in the community. I felt for it because when I heard it, I was like, wow, this is really good. Adam sounds completely different here. and then like I looked into it more and I was like, this can't be real. Because how come a song like this made a bonus track or anything? And that is why. So if you have thought this whole time that Figured Out is a 3 Days Grace song, I'm really sorry to break it to you, but it is not. The album Transit of Venus would drop October 2nd, 2012. This dropped to high positive reviews. Not like all the other albums where they had hate mixed in with love. Critics were impressed, mainly applauding the band for stepping out of their comfort zone entirely. I do think that the heavy pop influence and synths on Transit of Venus were heavily influenced by the producer Don Gilmore. I also think that is why it got such good reception from critics, because they probably saw the producer and was like, whatever this man does is good, so 5 stars. Going through the band's discography, when you listen to their first 3 albums, you can tell that it is the band finding their sound, perfecting it, honing in on their craft. Transit of Venus was something completely different. It was leaning into more electronic synth sounds that was very prominent for the time, early 2010s. Rock was kind of being phased out here.
To me, rock music right now feels like the late 80s, where there's a lot of bands that all sound the same, trying to do the same thing. A lot of big bands forget what rock and roll is, and that it's honest and real, and I think that's a problem, really.
I think people are looking for something real now more than ever, but even bombarded with so many contrived ideas.
Bowie wanted to also combine his studio rig to the rig that he uses live, and he wanted to use more simple sounds. I would argue that his guitar actually sounds way more heavy and more complex than we've ever heard before. Dan Hope from The Lantern stated, some 3 Days Grace fans might be initially rebuffed by the increased impact of studio production on this album, but overall it is another fantastic chapter to the band's discography. All Music describes the album as most refined than anything they've done before. They say it adds that level of atmosphere on the album album, allowing 3 Days Grace to stand out amongst other post-grunge bands, which, if you remember in the reviews for 1X, they said that they were not standing above the crowd, they were not differentiating themselves to their peers. Transit of Venus was the album. Despite the high praise from the critics, it would be a turbulent one for the fans. A lot of 3 Days Grace fans kind of stem Transit of Venus to be the beginning of the downfall for the band. I found this on Reddit saying lots of fans feel that the release of Transit of Venus marked the transition of 3 Days Grace from a hard rock alternative band to more of a mainstream pop band, and that the songs and the band had lost their edge. Hence, Transit of Venus is often seen as the weakest album released by the original lineup of the band. Also, what the actual fuck? Give In To Me is a Michael Jackson song. How have I listened to that song for 10 years and I had no idea this whole time? But to give some credit to the Reddit post, the songs themselves are vastly different to whatever they do have in their discography. Some songs are playing it safe. They are leaning into the pop side of things. Like I said, that is what was selling in 2012.
This is the last time I interrupt myself in this video, but I just want to quickly say that Transit of Venus was the first album to be released under RCA Records after their contract with Jive Records ended. So yeah, I think that's something to point out. So there was obviously like even more money thrown at production, marketing, all that jazz. Did this impact the direction and sound the band was going in? Maybe, potentially. Yeah, I just wanted to make a note of that.
This album also was an album of firsts. It included co-writes, which the band has never done. You know, if they do have co-writes, it is with their producer, but this time around they had people coming in to the band to write with them. I mean, honestly, the band would never make an album like this ever again. I do believe it is severely underrated. There are some absolute gems on here, like Give Me a Reason, The High Road, and Expectations. They're probably my top 3. It's definitely their most polished album. It does have aspects of pop, but it is still pretty heavy in some places. Despite the upset fandom, or well, some of the fans, they weren't the only people who were unhappy with the album, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Transit of Venus would also birth a second single, Misery Loves Company, was released in 2013. We will get there, but it was the band's 11th number 1. According to a list published by AXS.com, it's regarded as one of the best 3 Days Grace songs, like a top 10 list. This song was also really sweet. It featured a music video which was fan-made. The band started a competition asking fans to make their own video for Misery Loves Company, and the winner would win $5,000 and get their video published. The winners were Esther Quenville, and Xavier Collett-Garand. I'm just really bad at names. You can probably tell that by now. So, you know, sorry. Sorry, Xavier and Esther, for butchering that. The band would also release the runner-up videos on their Gennaro website. In typical 3 Days Grace fashion, and I mean any band fashion, they hit the road to tour Transit of Venus, starting off with some clubs across the US in October and November 2012.
But we're on a more of a stripped down, or at least not stripped down, but a smaller venue tour right now. A lot of the fans were asking why the stripped down tour.
Well, you know, for us, we just put out this new record, and you know, we decided that we wanted to get out there and basically, for our hardcore sort of loyal fans, do these small club shows and, like, you know, play the new record, just try things out, and do that in an intimate setting, you know, rather than just going out and hitting arenas or whatever, you know, to start. So we're gonna tour October, you know, small clubs, and then in the new year, we'll probably end up doing like a big tour and hit a lot more cities and all that stuff. Right.
But what the fans didn't know was that this was going to be the last 3 Days Grace album with this lineup. This was actually going to be Adam's final tour.
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing? We're in Seattle. We are starting our October tour. We are coming to a town near you. We are 3 Days Grace, by the way. Transit of Venus is out shortly, and I hope you get a copy. We hope you get a copy. Pick it up, check it out. We'll see you out on the road. Fucking rock and roll.
We've made it, guys. Probably the saddest moment in the 3 Days Grace lore. So after the band's small tour at the end of 2012, they already had dates locked in for 2013, featuring a huge co-headlining tour with Shinedown starting in February, I'm pretty sure. 9th of January would come. 3 Days Grace would post onto their website. We appreciate everyone's concern about 3 Days Grace. We found out on December 21st that Adam wished to resign from the band. In a letter to us, Adam indicated that he was resigning from the band due to a non-life-threatening health issue and wanted the band to continue moving forward without him. We were shocked, as many of you were, to hear the news. 3 Days Grace has always been and will continue to be not only our job, but our passion. So this is gonna send some shock to have the community in uproar. What do you mean Adam is leaving the band? That's his band. And the band were carrying on? They were gonna just replace him? He was the soul of the band. His voice, his words. Many fans speculated with theories of the real reason why Adam left the band. People were saying how he seemed fine at the shows. In hindsight though, you can kind of see it coming. With all of the information that we have now, Adam leaving was kind of inevitable. A lot of people also picked up on Adam and Neil and thinking something happened there between them. There's a lot of parts in interviews as well where you can see Adam zoning out, and also Neil kind of outshines a lot in a lot of the band interviews.
Watch the teeth, brother.
I think this might be your best record yet.
No, it is.
It is?
Yeah.
So there's no might. It is. How do you guys come to...
Spent 3 times as much time on this record, concept of the record, than any album we've made in the past. To the fact that Venus and Earth are sort of sister planet.
In my opinion, it tops them all, and I think we really pushed ourselves on this record.
Millions of years ago. But because of its proximity to the sun, it kind of dried up. And
I do think Neil had a heavy hand in the production and the making of Transit of Venus.
we decided to basically re-record a song, which we just finished in Toronto the other day, and there was a bit of unfinished business with a couple keyboard parts, a little bit of a piano thing going on. So this is what I'm using right now.
And maybe Adam didn't like that, but he didn't want to say anything. So what did Adam say about leaving? He would say his own piece in a very lengthy Facebook status. Remember Facebook, guys? Remember when it was used for sharing messages and connecting with people and communicating, and now it's just full of AI slop and old people thinking that AI is real? To all my fans, friends, my family, these are my words coming from my heart, separate from my role as lead singer of 3 Days Grace. I want you all to know how very thankful I am for your consistent love, your respect, and your undying support. It is important for me to address my concerns regarding my health being connected to drugs or addiction. The truth is, when I was struggling during that dark time in my life, I hit rock bottom, and I had the kindest of people to reach out from all over the world and reach their hands out to help pick me up. I am so blessed to be walking in the light now. I am reminded of your loyalty always. The truth is, and I'm very proud to say this, I am sober. That chapter in my life is over. There may have been many defining moments in my life. My time as part of 3 Days Grace is most definitely one of the miraculous ones. I have had so many tender-hearted people share with me their stories, how I've touched or changed their lives. My truth is that all of the love I have received has forever changed my life. Each letter I've read, every picture I've been sent, all of the voices I've heard sing along with me, I will forever remember and never forget. After 20 years of being part of an ever-evolving band, I have been inspired by life to move on and to continue to evolve on my own terms. I could not be more grateful for all the souls who have travelled along with me, a journey I can look back on with integrity and a future I look forward to with such hope. I have always admired brave hearts. Life is always changing. I will continue to follow my heart and what I love to do. I'm not sure what the next horizon will look like, but I do have all the faith in the world that whatever it is, it's meant to be, and I have faith that blessings will continue to shine over all of us. I once heard a brave heart say, "When nothing is sure, everything is possible." It's because of my life's journey, because of all of you that I believe. Sincerely, my love, Adam. Now, I can sit here and tell you the theories and how some people say that there are gaps in the story and it makes you wonder, is this real? Is this fabricated? What is the full picture? This is what we were given in 2013.
There was creative differences. I was starting to just not enjoy playing music as much, and at that point, that's when I realized I had to take a good look at myself and, change what I was doing. Barry and Brad and myself talk quite often, so it's cool. I mean, we took some time, definitely not talking to each other, but yeah, we're talking now and things are good. I'm proud of those guys for what they're doing.
In hindsight now, there is a lot more information that has been released to us, including Adam basically saying that leaving the band was the most selfish thing he ever did. He was going through a separation with his wife. It's messy, it's sad, but that is what we were given in 2013. The Adam-sized hole in 3 Days Grace couldn't possibly be filled. I mean, how can you replace the frontman of a band? It is not ideal at all. The news that the band weren't backing down left fans uneasy and confused. Why couldn't they just call it off, pull the plug? Because they didn't want to. This was their passion. This was their life. And the fact that they didn't call off shows, they did not call off that co-headline tour, it meant that they were bringing someone else in a month before heading on tour again. The earlier statement that I shared from 3 Days Grace, they also added who would be replacing Adam. We've been hanging out and reversing with Matt and look forward to rocking the stage in a few weeks. As of right now, Matt's role is temporary, and as far as the future and beyond this tour, we are taking it one day at a time. Matt Wolst is Brad's brother. He's also a longtime collaborator with the band, probably the first 3 Days Grace fan ever. He helped write songs on their debut album. He's been lurking in the shadows. He's also the lead singer of My Darkest Days. Remember the band I mentioned? He would fill in for Adam, and the band would say that this is temporary, but maybe they found someone to fill that Adam-sized gap. The band would find their feet, they would go on tour, they would keep going. That's all I have for you today. That is the rise and fall of 3 Days Grace. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. This video has been a huge project for me and we are not over yet. Part 2 will be coming soon, spanning from 2015 all the way up to present day. I'm really excited about this project. Like I said, 3 Days Grace means so much to me, and it means a lot putting so much effort into a band that I love. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Comment down below your favorite 3 Days Grace songs, your favorite album, anything about the band that you want to share. Oh, and also hit the subscribe button. It really helps me out. I really hope you stick around for part 2. Hopefully it won't be too long of a wait. Go follow me on Instagram. I'll see you very soon, hopefully.
And check out the video.
Yeah,
the video. Watch it. And
tell your sister I said hi.